We're here at Joint Seafood, and what we have in front of us is a $10,000 dry aged tuna. Now, I was told that there's a cut on this tuna that literally tastes like a steak, so we're gonna put that to the test. But first, as you can see, this place is absolutely ridiculous. We need to check this place out. Okay guys, we are here in LA. This is America's only dry aged fish shop. I'm pretty pumped to check it out. Let's go. What is up, Liwei? It is so great to finally meet you. The man, the myth, the legend, the owner of the Joint Seafood Market. Okay, so you guys have seen me do some dry aging at my house. It's all thanks to this guy. So realistically, how many fish do you think you have in this shop?
I think fully loaded, we're 4,000 pounds.
And so you have a saying that fresh is boring. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
You know, I grew up fishing, so I've had access to a lot of fresh fish, and it was always very predictable.
So when it comes to aged fish, what are the major benefits, would you say?
Before aging happens, we condition the fish to be better in texture, flavor, aroma, everything. It's gonna taste a lot cleaner. You won't taste the impurities, the blood, the slime. So we're actually making fish less fishy.
That is huge because
nobody wants a fishy fish.
Okay, so why don't we start by just checking out some of these fish?
Yeah, so we have some branzinos, barramundi, bluefin tuna. Over here we have some steelhead salmon, amberjack, some more black cod and king salmon over here. Those are sea breams.
Look at that organization. It's just like immaculately clean and they're just lined up. Fully gutted.
Fully scaled.
So tsukibiki is one of those things that we attempted back in our own kitchen.
The final important step is to move our knife against the fish like so to open those ducts.
I'm not gonna call it the biggest success in the world, but we did kind of go through the process. So one of the huge benefits to the tsukibiki method, along with dry aging fish, is that you have an extremely dry exterior on that skin, and it leads to the most insanely crispy and almost like puffy skin. Now, one thing that I've seen Liwei do quite a bit, look what he does here. He basically adds things to the cavity of the fish, opens them up, and allows perfect circulation to occur. And as you can see on these salmon, we have these beads of fat. They almost look like teardrops coming out of the fish.
So those beads that you see over there, so as the fish reduces its moisture, it starts sweating beads of fat.
I wish I could do that. Lose a little bit of weight, sweat some beads of fat, that'd be great. Moving over here, we have probably one of the most unique fish I've ever seen. I thought they were flounder. Apparently they're turbo. These must be bottom feeders then, right?
Yep.
So what would you say the ideal length of time to dry age? Like
There's-
for example, branzino.
So there's no ideal length of time. There's an ideal weight loss, 15%, depending on fish, some 10, and that also has to do with fat ratio content.
Something I'm very happy about. But of course, my man Liwei has some beef for us.
This is prime ribeye, bone in, and that's Japanese Wagyu.
Okay, so we've seen a lot of very cool fish, but now we're getting into the crazy stuff. Have you ever seen a salmon, one, that big, but also that shape? That thing is thick. So Ora King salmon are some of the most sought after salmon in the entire world. Ora King Tai, which means Ora King Chief. These particular fish have a genetic anomaly where they literally don't stop growing and they get to these absurd sizes. I mean, how big is this thing?
Mid-40s.
So a typical salmon will get to like 15 pounds. This thing is like triple that. Okay guys, and last but not least, we have the big kahuna, the big tuna, whatever you want to call it. This is the most prized dry aged fish I have ever seen in my entire life. This piece here comes from a bluefin tuna. And as you can see, there's several parts to the anatomy. Here we have that beautiful, rich, dark red akami, which is typically what we see when it comes to tuna sashimi. Down over here, we have the chutoro, which is the medium fatty tuna. And lastly, over here, we have the otoro. This stuff is literally the best of the best. It's pretty much like Wagyu A5, but for a tuna. But what I'm most excited about is this part right here. Now, it might not look like much right now, but this bloodline with the fat and the skin, that area right there, allegedly tastes like a steak. So literally any tuna over 200 pounds.
Fishermen like to call it cow.
So that's technically a cow. All right, we're having beef for dinner. Okay, so we've seen some fish, but it's time for a little challenge. It's time to find out if dry aged fish guy is truly the fish master. So over here, Liwei has probably a dozen branzino. I myself have about one. We're gonna do a little filleting and see who's faster. So Liwei was kind enough to let me look at his personal knife roll. And the first challenge is figuring out what knife to use. He's not giving me any insight on what the right knife is, so here we go. I mean, these definitely look like knives. No I don't know, I'm gonna trust my gut and just go with this guy. I've chosen my wand. Am I way off?
Yeah, way off, but you can use it if you want. I'll just grab this one right here.
What is this knife actually used for?
For slicing sashimi.
The goal here is to remove the fillet, leave obviously as much flesh as possible on the fish. By the end of this, I need 2 beautiful fillets.
I have a sense that Max is nervous.
3, 2, 1, go. Shit, oh my God, that angle is completely off. Guys, what are you doing over there, Liwei?
I'm just,
What are you
I'm
doing?
just preparing all my fish to fillet.
I don't know if I'm going from the right side. Oh my God, I went through the backbone.
Liwei, how are you feeling right now?
Just cutting fish, just like any other day.
Oh my God, he's already filleting them. What? I thought he was still on the head. We're selling these fish later, right?
Yeah.
I need moral support right now. This is not done.
Okay.
How are we looking quality-wise? First, realistically, what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to my 1. So you're 6 times faster than me at filleting fish. How's the quality of mine though? If
I
one
can't
of
sell
your-
that.
This is one of his. This is one of mine. Yours like fully follows the backbone. I did leave a lot of meat on there. Smells remarkably clean. Doesn't smell like no funky, weird, fishy smells. It's a little more firm, I would say. There it is. Liwei's better at filleting fish than me. So it's time to move on to the next step, and it's easily the step I'm most excited about. We are going to actually slice into one of these hunks of tuna. So this right here is quarter of a 600-pound tuna. I mean, that piece right there goes for well over $10,000. Oh my God.
It's heavier than you think, right? Park it right here.
Okay, and it is finally time to slice into our giant hunk of tuna. Now, after my last performance with the knife, oh my God, I went through the backbone. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to slice things anymore in this shop, so we're gonna let Liwei do the honors, but just check this thing out real quick. As you can see, there is a pellicle, kind of similar to what you'll find with beef, a little bit less hard, but this is what, dry aged for, you said, like 30 days?
Just a little over 2 weeks.
Fairly standard for tuna, right? We have that more red meat, that akami up here, and then towards the back, we have the holy grail. This stuff is, it's called Otoro, the best of the best. I am extremely excited to slice into this thing. Is that all one motion?
The idea of it is supposed to be one motion.
Oh my God, you just went right through that.
Yeah. So this is the Otoro, Jutoro, Akami, and that's that bloodline.
This is the fish steak. Yeah.
If I age tuna correctly, the pellicle is very, very thin. This coloration here is like perfect red. That's like literally like maybe a millimeter in the pellicle.
Right.
That's when it's done right. Nothing on here is decomposing.
So this Toro section is easily the most prized part of the tuna, but for today's experiment, we're actually focusing on this area right here, which is part of the bloodline. And Liwei tells me it tastes similar to a steak. The only way to find out is to do a little side-by-side comparison. So what we're gonna do is grill up some of this dry-aged tuna, compare it to a real steak to find out how similar they could possibly be. Wow, that comes right off. All right, so more of the fat here, and then getting into that lean meat. It doesn't look like a bloodline though. Like you mentioned New York strip, very similar just visually. We have that fattier area right here, gets into the lean section.
Liwei spent the next few minutes breaking down that bloodline into both leaner and more fatty sections.
Removing the pellicle.
Now usually the bloodline has an overly fishy taste, but with tuna of this quality, it apparently not only tastes great, but also tastes like a steak. But to say I was skeptical at this point would be an understatement.
So are you going against the grain here?
For this, it really doesn't really matter.
We're grilling this, right?
Yeah. There's like 3 cuts here. I think that's gonna taste just like that fat cat on the New York. This is gonna be like tasting a lot like the filet. And this here probably tastes texturally more like a ribeye.
So we have the fatty, the lean, and the in-between. And of course, the real steak. Okay, so over here we have our 3 pieces of dry-aged tuna. We have our real steak, we have our charcoal getting lit up. Let's do this. We're actually gonna season these with a Montreal steak seasoning to really give them that steaky feel.
All right, let's grill them up.
Liwei placed the tuna as well as the real steak on the grill, and for this searing step, we used high quality Binchotan charcoal. It generates really high heat with a distinctive clean char flavor. Now he was the one who claimed that this tuna tastes like beef, so I let him do the honors with the cooking. What I noticed is that he was really focusing on the sear on one side, allowing him to get a super strong crust.
So I'm not gonna lie, visually at this point, they look extremely similar. But what matters most is the taste. Okay, so our chef has left us with 4 beautiful looking steaks. Unfortunately, I don't have my taste test tie, but we do have this guy right here, which should work perfect. Let's do this. Now, once again, the question here is, can I tell the difference between the tuna and the beef? Number 1. I know for a fact that is tuna. That is absolutely spectacular. Which one was that?
That was this right here.
Is that the fat part?
That's usually the part that is discarded. It's the bloodline.
Right.
It doesn't sell. That's what my butchers eat. They eat well.
Typically on a strip, you kind of have that like little layer of fat over the top. Totally got that. In terms of flavor, it is extremely clean. Typically when you eat really high fat content tuna, very creamy, but you don't get that crust. In this case, it's super crunchy, but you still get that smoothness from all the fat. Okay, number 2. Okay, so this is definitely the steak. It's so crazy though how similar it is.
The resemblances are striking.
So at the end of the day, yes, we could tell the difference between the beef and the tuna, but I have to say that was by far the meatiest tuna I have ever had in my life, and it was incredible. So thank you so much to Liwei. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, if you are in LA, be sure to check this place out, and I'll see you next time.